Morning peeps, good morning everyone, how we all doing? Hopefully you guys are all doing well. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you guys are new to the channel, don't forget as well to like and share the vids. Alright, we might be doing a live this Friday. I'm trying to get a couple of guests in the studio so we can do like an end of year wrap. The final fight or the final big fight of the year is Inoue Butler, which is Tuesday, I think, or is it Wednesday? But yeah, look, anyway, the final fight of the year is coming up in a couple of days so we can properly look back at 2022. So yeah, this Friday around 8 o'clock, but again, I'll let you guys know closer to the time. If we don't do it live, and I really want to do it live, but if we don't do it live, I definitely am going to have a couple of guests in the studio and do like a 2-hour wrap anyway, but I do want to do it live so we can interact with you as your questions come in. So yeah, pencil it in this Friday at 7 or 8 o'clock, but I'll let you guys know sort of Tuesday or Wednesday if we can get it done and who it's going to be. Ideally, I'd love it to be like a Travis J from Undefeated Podcast and maybe like a Rob Tebbett or an Andy Clark or anyone really, but those will kind of be the ideal guests, but we'll see if we can get it done. All right, let's wrap the weekend's boxing. Let's start with where I was in Leeds for DAZN. It was a fantastic atmosphere, by the way, like incredible. Obviously, it went a bit flat when England lost, but overall, look, you know what Josh Warrington fans are like. It's funny because we obviously stopped for football, and I was thinking there's not going to be that many people in there. Like, obviously, we stopped at around 6:30, and they knew Josh was going to walk to the ring at around, what time did he walk to the ring? 10:30. So I was thinking a lot of the fans are just going to turn up when Josh fights. That's kind of what happens. So I went out after stopping at 6:30. I thought, let me quickly go to the back, get some food, came back out for England, packed. Like it's funny because I tweeted and said that I heard around 10,000 were going to be in there. I think a lot of people said, oh, stop it at a company, man. It ain't 10,000. There were 10,000 in there. In fact, there were 10,000 in there. But yeah, I had two massive screens. And it was just a good atmosphere. And then obviously when England lost, it did get flat. And it's funny because as soon as the whistle went for full time, I had to quickly go live immediately. And I could just sense that the place was a bit weird. It was a bit weird. Obviously, the first fight after the break was Felix Cash versus Neves. Cash looked okay for the first couple of rounds. I think he thought he could get Neves out of there. Ammo Williams was ringside and maybe he wanted to send a message to Ammo Williams because that is the fight that looks like it's going to happen next. But in the end, to be fair, credit to Neves. I mean, he soaked up a lot of the pressure. He landed some big shots of his own, and Cash just didn't look great. Look, we haven't seen Cash since the Madiev fight. I don't know if you guys remember how that fight played out. Cash got put down twice in that fight, got a point deducted as well. So people thought maybe he was lucky to get the win. So we haven't seen him since then. There was a couple of fights he was supposed to have, Vaughan Alexander, and then I think it was Conor Coyle on the undercard of what would have been the Ben Eubank fight. So there's been a couple postponements. So we haven't really seen him look good since the Denzel Bentley fight. It's quite a while back. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think he's a good fighter. Like, again, you go back to that Denzel Bentley performance and look, Bentley's good. Bentley's a very good European level fighter. He destroyed Bentley. Absolutely destroyed him. So that Cash needs to turn up because I think Ammo Williams is very confident, very aggressive. I think it's a good fight. And I would have edged to Cash before. Now I think I edged to Ammo Williams. But I think it's a good fight. Co-main event, Ebony Bridges versus Shannon O'Connell. You know what? And I said this on the broadcast and I didn't mean it to be disrespectful. And hopefully she hasn't thought I am trying to be disrespectful. But I said for whatever she lacks in boxing ability, she makes up for it with just pure grit, determination, and just sheer will to win. And that's how I kind of sort of judged the fight. I think Shannon O'Connell's probably the better boxer. She's been fighting for a lot longer. She's been fighting for well over 10 years, Shannon O'Connell. But Ebony she just honestly bites down on that gum shield and just gets to work. Now, when you think of her outside the ring and the way in which she sells herself, and when she gets in the ring, she's a completely different person. Like, she's an animal in the ring, complete animal. She'll do everything. Like, she'll go in with her head. She's a bit naughty like that, but she is a completely different fighter from the one that we first saw fight Shannon Courtney, what, a year and a half ago? Was it that? Yeah, about a year and a half ago, right? Completely different fighter. Like that Ebony Bridges, if the Ebony Bridges that fought on Saturday turned up against Shannon Courtney, she beat Shannon Courtney. Like right now, I'd have to make her a favourite over Shannon Courtney if they were ever to fight again. And it looks like they're trying to make that fight eventually. But yeah, credit to Ebony Bridges. She got rocked hard in the first round. And I was sitting next to Tony Bellew and Darren Barker, and they were like, it's her fitness that keeps her going. Like that, the way she got hit, if she wasn't fit, she would have gone down. But she got hit, and rather than even take a step back, she just keeps on sort of just plodding forward. Honestly, it isn't pretty, it isn't beautiful to watch, but she's effective. And as I've always said, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and she clearly has it her way. But yeah, man, she's a force to be reckoned with, you know, because she can hit hard. You saw Shannon O'Connell's face. I know she was upset the fight got stopped, but it had to be stopped. She was getting bust up. Honestly, she was getting beaten up. And I'm looking at her corner and I'm like, just throw the towel in. Like, honestly, I've clearly gone soft. I was looking at them and I was like, I wasn't saying it. I was just looking at them thinking, what are you doing? Like, she's not going to win this fight. Like, she can't hurt Ebony Bridges anymore. Ebony's felt her shots, the best shot, and she swallowed it. She can't hurt her. She's not winning this on points. She's getting beaten up. Her face is wrong. Looks like her eye socket was all over the place. Throw the towel in. And they were just watching. I was like, Jesus. So, look, they obviously want to do Shannon Courtney versus Nina Hughes. Nina Hughes beat Jamie Mitchell. And then I think they want to do the winner of that face Ebony Bridges. And in an ideal world, because of the beef beforehand, Shannon Courtney versus Ebony is actually a big-ish fight, right? It is. It'll do decent numbers in the summer. All right, let's talk about the main event. Josh Warrington versus Luis Alberto Lopez. I think most people said it was going to be a banana skin for Josh, just because we don't know the ceiling of Luis Alberto Lopez. I know he's lost a couple of times, but they were before. Ruben Villa is a good fighter we lost to, but that was a while back. Since then, he's just been on a roll, hasn't he? He steamrolled a few people as well. He has a very, very awkward style. I don't know if you guys were able to pick it up from home, but he's all over the place. You can't predict what he's going to do, and that's difficult. How do you get sparring for that? I don't know. Like, where do you find those type of fighters? He's clearly got a chin. He's got an engine. Like an engine. Like I tweeted during the fight, this motherfucker doesn't have a reverse gear. Very, very awkward. And in the end, he done enough for me, done enough to get the W. As the scorecards are being read out, you're thinking, Josh is going to get this. Like when the first one's 114, Howard Foster, thinking, okay, well, that's it then. Josh is going to become, retain his belt. When it does go to Lopez, there's a part of me that obviously is very sad for Josh, because look, Josh has got this dream of this a big American fight, which could still happen. But there's also a part of me that, like, thank God. Like, let's not be this country that always gets it wrong on the scorecards. There's been a lot of eyeballs on UK scorecards in recent years, right? We've almost turned into, when I was growing up, it was all about Germany. Like, you could never go to Germany and get a win. I feel like the UK's kind of turned into that. So that's why I think it was good that Luis Alberto Lopez got the victory, because it would have been another L for British boxing judges, I thought. But back to the fight, I just felt like Luis, I'm just gonna call him Lopez. I don't have to keep saying his full name. I thought Lopez banked a lot of the early rounds. He hurt Josh to the body on numerous occasions. I think Josh even went back to the corner and told his dad, look, that he felt hurt to the body, and he did. And because of that, when he covered up, and Josh has got such a tight guard, he was protecting his body a lot. Like, his arms were a bit low, and then Lopez started swinging sort of punches over the top and landing. Josh did hurt Lopez, but it was too late. He hurt him, I think it might have been the 11th round, and that was the first time I saw Lopez hurt, like physically hurt. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. He was already down on, I think, most people's scorecards then, and then it was a case of, all right, can he nick a draw? And that was it. Could he nick a draw? It wasn't could he nick the win, because in order to get the win, he would have to have put Lopez down or got a knockout. But could he nick a draw? And I just didn't think he did enough to nick a draw. I honestly didn't think he did enough. He couldn't pin him down. That guy was so slippery, couldn't pin him down. And when he did, Lopez was smart. He held. Lopez landed. Like I was at ringside, so I was with Andy Lee and Mike Costello. It wasn't working. I thought, let me just get a good seat. And I saw the punch stats. Like throughout the round, the punch stats kept on changing, obviously. And Lopez was above Josh in every single punch stat. Every single punch stat. Everything. Sort of punches thrown, power punches, jabs, landed, everything. So I thought, he's just doing more work. He's doing more work. And look, Josh, credit to him, because I thought he was done after round 7. Dug deep and sort of found a way to maybe claw it back, and look, will be disappointed. But in the end, I think if he watches it back, I think he'll understand that he didn't nick that. He didn't nick it. I'm not quite sure what this means. Obviously, it was a mandatory, so there is no rematch clause or anything like that in there. Bob Arum's going to be happy, right? I mean, Bob and Eddie have gone back and forth, and Lopez is a top-ranked fighter. I'm not quite sure if anyone's going to want to get in there with him. There'll be guys out there that think they can beat him, but I think it's one thing watching him. Getting in the ring with him is a completely different thing, because he's got respectable power, he's got a chin, he's got a gas tank, and he's awkward. You know what I mean? It's not going to be easy. For Josh, look, the big fights are still out there, just because, I mean, he can do big numbers. And look, he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter, Josh. I mean, he's been in there with guys that most people wouldn't want to get in there with. Like, you wouldn't want to get in there with a Lopez. You wouldn't. You wouldn't want to get in there with a Lara. He's got some big wins under his belt. The problem is now he's a very, very big B-side. So, you know, when it comes to sort of money discussions, it's not going to be in his favour. There is still the Lee Wood fight. That's a big fight for him. Leo Santa Cruz is a big fight for him. Michael Conlan's a big fight for him. So there are big fights. Mike Costello, after he was doing the in-ring interviews, and he asked him about the possibility of retirement. And I got the train back from Leeds to London with Mike, and I was like, you know, that question you asked him, was it based on, it wasn't based on you don't think Josh has got it anymore. Was it based on the fact that, like, would Josh want to have to go through 2 or 3 guys to get to world title contention? He said, yeah, the latter. It was a case of, will Josh want to have to go through maybe a couple more tricky Mexicans to get to a world title? I don't think Josh has to go through those guys. I think Josh is a big name where he jumped straight in with a big name on a voluntary. Again, there's not many people that can bring 10,000 people to a fight. Josh can. I think Josh Michael Conlan's a massive fight still. Josh Lee Wood's a massive fight. It's a shame Josh doesn't have his belt, but there's still big opportunities out there for Josh, really big opportunities. In the end, he just came up against a guy who had the same work rate he does, and we know Josh has got a terrific work rate, maybe a bit stronger, a bit fresher, and ultimately just a bit better. That's it sometimes, just a bit better. That's all it was. Lee Wood was in the studio with me, and I said to Lee, look, do you still want that fight? Because there was a lot of talk about that fight at the City Ground, and Lee was sort of and ahhing. He said, not next. I think they're going Lara, you know. I think they're going Lee Wood Lara next, which is, I mean, the balls on Lee Wood. I mean, you get injured and you swerve him. Lee's like, no, we're going to go back to that. So if Lee gets past Lara, I mean, as much as Lee, if he gets past that, then Lee has to go to America and take on some of the big boys, Ray Vargas, maybe even move up a weight and see what's going on with Valdez Navarrete, but we'll see. But as for the next fight for Josh Warrington, it will be a big one. And he deserves a big one as far as I'm concerned. There's no point sort of trying to go down a level. Stay at that level and see what you can do. All right, guys, girls, peace and love.